She was born into a dynasty that ruled half the world, yet its greatest strength was killing it from within. A princess crafted by centuries of incest, destined to marry her own uncle, and to give birth to a child so deformed that people swore he was cursed. This is the story of Mariana of Austria, the queen so inbred they thought she was bewitched. Vienna, Christmas Eve, 1634. Snow drifts across the stone eagles of the Habsburg palace, their wings frozen in silence. Inside, the air smells of wax and blood. A young woman has just given birth, and crimson stains mark the price of Europe's most dangerous dynasty. The midwife holds up a child, a girl, ruddy from the struggle of entering the world. To those gathered, she is another Habsburg princess. But history will know her as Mariana of Austria, the most inbred queen in European history. Her father, Ferdinand III, will become Holy Roman Emperor. Her mother, Mariana of Spain, is both his cousin and his niece. Mariana's blood is a labyrinth, a closed loop created by centuries of incestuous strategy. A dynasty choking itself in pursuit of purity. For 3 centuries, the Habsburgs had one obsession: keep power within the family. While other monarchs looked outward for alliances, they turned inward, marrying nieces, cousins, even uncles. They called it divine preservation. Modern science calls it genetic collapse. The child's face already bears the family's curse: a jaw too heavy, eyes drooping, a chin that recedes like her ancestors. The infamous Habsburg jaw. What painters would later glorify as nobility was, in truth, a mark of decay. As Mariana grows in Vienna's palaces, she is surrounded by luxury and death. Her siblings and cousins die in cradles lined with silk. Infant mortality stalks the Habsburg nurseries like a ghost. Hydropic skulls, twisted spines, weak lungs. Doctors call it God's will. It is really genetics, pushed to the breaking point. Mariana survives, pale and delicate. Observers describe her face as refined, yet it carries the unmistakable signs of centuries of incest. Her life is not her own. From childhood, she is groomed to serve the dynasty, a womb, not a daughter. In war rooms lit by candlelight, maps of Europe sprawl across oak tables. Her marriage is discussed like a military campaign. She is to wed her uncle, Philip IV of Spain. He is nearly 30 years her senior. She is not yet a teenager. Vienna, 1649. At the altar, a 15-year-old girl stands alone, wrapped in silver brocade so heavy it drags on the stone floor. Her husband is not even present. Vows are spoken by proxy. Yet the bond is real. The circle of blood closes tighter. The dynasty celebrates what they call unity. But beneath the hymns, the curse deepens. The girl who leaves Vienna that winter carries with her the future of Spain and the seeds of its destruction. The Spanish court and the curse of blood. The journey from Vienna to Madrid was long, cold, and cruel. Through snow, across the Alps, then into the dust of Castile, a procession of carriages carrying gold, dowries, and a girl not yet 16. When Mariana crossed into Spain, her Austrian servants were dismissed. In their place came strangers who bowed deeply, but watched her like hawks. To them, she was no longer a child. She was La Reina, the Queen of Spain, a vessel for hope, a vessel for heirs. Madrid greeted her with celebration. Fountains gushed wine, roses hung from arches, and entire villages bankrupted themselves to honor the new queen. Philip III, her uncle and husband, stood in crimson and gold, 44 years old, weary from wars and buried children. Beside him stood his bride, barely a woman, pale as wax and quiet as marble. At his side was Maria Theresa, his daughter from a previous marriage, younger than Mariana herself. A stepmother and a stepdaughter almost the same age. The irony was lost on no one. The Spanish court was a labyrinth of ceremony. Where Vienna allowed laughter, Madrid allowed none. Queens were relics, holy but silent, their lives choreographed by priests and politics. Mariana learned fast. Obedience meant survival. She bowed, smiled, and spoke when spoken to. Her body fragile, her jaw heavy, but her will hardening. The true test came not in politics, but in childbirth. Spain demanded an heir. Europe watched her womb as closely as any battlefield. Her first child, Margaret Theresa, was born in 1651. The court rejoiced, she lived. But the joy was short-lived. In 1655, another daughter, Maria Ambrosia, died within months, her features frail, her body weak. Then came a son, Philip Prospero, in 1657. For 4 years, Spain dared to hope. Then he too was gone. Each tiny coffin that left the palace was another crack in the illusion of divine favor. Priests whispered of curses. Physicians whispered of blood. 1658, another infant, Ferdinand Tomas, dies before his first birthday. Every death is labeled God's will, but everyone knows the truth. Centuries of incest have left the Habsburg blood poisoned. Then, in 1661, a miracle, or perhaps a warning. A new son is born. He lives. His name is Charles. From his first breath, nurses whisper that he is bewitched. His limbs frail, his jaw grotesquely enlarged, his tongue too heavy for his mouth. Physicians call it a mystery. We call it genetic collapse. This boy, Charles II of Spain, would grow to be the most inbred monarch in human history. And for Mariana, the queen who gave him life, his survival would mean a lifetime of sorrow, sacrifice, and impossible endurance. Her husband was aging, her children dying, her empire weakening. But soon, a new chapter would begin. One where Mariana would rule not as a wife or mother, but as regent over a dying empire built on broken blood. Before we continue, if you're drawn to stories like this, the hidden rot beneath royal power, take a second to subscribe. More forgotten dynasties, doomed kings, and cursed empires are coming. Now, back to Mariana, and the moment she becomes a queen surrounded by enemies. The widow regent and the crumbling empire Madrid, 1665. The Alcazar stands heavy under storm clouds. Inside, the air is thick with incense and fear. King Philip IV of Spain, Mariana's uncle, husband, and the last pillar of strength in a fading empire, lies dying. At his bedside, a young widow stands in black silk. Her face pale, her expression carved in resolve. Mariana of Austria is only 31. When the king exhales his last breath, she becomes regent of the largest empire on earth, and guardian to a 4-year-old boy too weak to stand. Her son, Charles II, is small, trembling, and already a symbol of ruin. His jaw juts grotesquely, his tongue barely fits his mouth, his legs weak. Doctors call him blessed. The court whispers another word: bewitched. The dynasty had not produced a savior. It had produced a warning. But in a world ruled by men, this woman from Austria refuses to vanish behind the veil of mourning. Mariana takes her place at the council table. Gray-bearded nobles bow, reluctantly. They see her as a foreigner, as a woman, as an intruder. But by law, by blood, and by sheer will, she commands the Spanish crown. She appoints ministers, signs decrees, and directs the empire's wars and finances. Her first act shocks the court. She elevates her confessor, Juan Everardo Nithard, a Jesuit of Austrian birth, to chief minister. To her enemies, it is proof of foreign corruption. To Mariana, it is survival. Beyond the palace, Spain is bleeding. France, under Louis XIV, presses against the borders. Portugal claws its way to independence. The treasury is empty, the colonies restless. And still the nobles whisper, Spain is ruled by a woman, and worse, by an Austrian woman. Her most dangerous enemy steps from the shadows. Don Juan of Austria the Younger, the king's illegitimate half-brother. Born in Spain, a soldier, male. To the nobles, he is everything Mariana is not. He claims he can save Spain from decline, if only the Queen Mother steps aside. Crowds chant his name through the streets of Madrid. Down with the Austrian. The city trembles. Every corridor of the palace becomes a chessboard. Every ally, a potential traitor. Every smile, a weapon. Mariana plays the game better than any man alive. When the church declares her confessor's influence unholy, she sacrifices him. Neithard is exiled under the jeers of the mob. The crowd cheers. Don Juan celebrates. But Mariana remains standing. She replaces one minister with another, adapting faster than her rivals can plot. Still, time works against her. Her son grows, but his body does not. Reports spread through Europe. The boy king cannot walk alone, cannot chew, cannot speak clearly. The Habsburg jaw has reached its final form, nature's punishment carved in bone. He is a monarch in name, a broken child in body. Yet Spain pretends. Every public appearance, every festival, every portrait painted of the young king is theater. A desperate illusion that the empire's heart still beats. By 1677, rebellion brews again. Don Juan marches on Madrid with an army, demanding control. Mariana retreats to Toledo, conceding power to prevent bloodshed. Don Juan becomes chief minister, her rival triumphant. But fate favors patience. 2 years later, Don Juan dies suddenly, perhaps illness, perhaps poison. The details are lost to time. What matters is that Mariana survives again. She returns to Madrid draped in black silk, a widow, a mother, a survivor. Her enemies are gone, but her victory tastes of ash. Her son still weakens before her eyes, his body twisted, his fertility in doubt. Mariana holds an empire together with intellect and will, even as her dynasty collapses from within. She wins every political battle and loses the war written in her son's blood. For every treaty she signs, every rival she defeats, the truth remains. Spain's greatest enemy is not France or rebellion. It is the Habsburg blood itself, poisoned by centuries of pride. The Bewitched King and the End of a Dynasty. Madrid, 1679. Mariana of Austria is now in her mid-40s. The black silks of widowhood are part of her skin. Her son, King Charles II, is 18. In years, a man, but in body, a broken child. His spine bends, his legs tremble, his jaw juts grotesquely. When he speaks, the court strains to understand him. And yet, he is king, the last Habsburg king of Spain. Mariana knows the truth. The empire she has guarded for decades can only survive if her son produces an heir. So she arranges a marriage, the first of two. Marie-Louise of Orléans, a French princess of youth and beauty, arrives in Madrid like sunlight breaking into a tomb. She is radiant. Charles, frail and awkward, stares in silence as she curtsies before him. The Spanish people cheer, convinced that new blood will heal the curse of centuries. But the miracle never comes. Years pass. No children. Behind palace walls, doctors whisper, priests pray, and alchemists mutter of potions. Charles is too sickly, too malformed, too broken. In 1689, after a decade of humiliation and isolation, Marie-Louise dies, officially of illness, but in truth of despair. Mariana does not grieve long. Spain needs another queen, another chance. Her choice is Maria Anna of Neuburg, a German princess from a famously fertile family. She arrives in Madrid surrounded by hope and expectation. But when she meets her husband, she finds not a king, but a ghost. Charles's body is ravaged, his face swollen and twisted, his teeth misaligned, his legs weak. He suffers seizures, and his mind flickers between confusion and delirium. He eats little, sleeps poorly, prays endlessly. The court begins to whisper again. They say he is bewitched, that witches have cursed his seed, that spells have sealed the royal womb. Exorcists are summoned, holy relics paraded through the palace, but no ritual can heal centuries of incest. By the 1690s, Spain is a shadow of its former glory. The empire that once ruled the oceans now drowns in debt. Ambassadors from France, Austria, and England write home not of alliances, but of partitions. They carve maps, divide colonies, and prepare for Spain's death before the king has even died. Mariana reads their letters by candlelight. She understands every word, but she refuses to surrender. She turns again to diplomacy, to her brother, Emperor Leopold of Austria. If Spain must fall, it should fall to her own blood, not to France. The irony is cruel. The same Habsburg blood that destroyed Spain is now her final weapon. By now, Charles is barely functional. He moves with help, speaks with difficulty, and cannot father children. Yet the court still stages processions, pretending Spain's strength endures. When he appears, the crowds cheer, not from hope, but from denial. They chant, "Viva el Rey," knowing the words are hollow. Winter, 1696. The Alcazar Palace groans under the wind, its stones blackened by centuries of smoke. Inside, Mariana of Austria lies dying. She is 62, her body frail, her spirit unbroken. Portraits of her dead children line the walls. She has buried them all, except one. Charles, the bewitched king, the last of his line. She dies believing he might still father an heir, believing the dynasty she has defended her entire life might yet survive. Her funeral winds through Madrid in black velvet and golden torchlight. The crowds weep and whisper prayers. They no longer call her foreign. They call her Madre de España, the mother of Spain, the woman who held a dying empire together when it should have shattered. But history is merciless. 5 years after her death, Charles II dies childless. The War of the Spanish Succession begins. The crown passes not to a Habsburg, but to a Bourbon. 3 centuries of empire end not with conquest, but with sterility. Mariana of Austria was both victim and architect of that fate. A queen born of incest, a regent who ruled with brilliance, a woman who delayed the inevitable collapse through sheer intellect and endurance. What she called purity was decay. What she called unity was extinction. And yet, her will, her strategy, her survival made her more than a relic of blood. She became a legend. The queen so inbred, they thought she was bewitched, and the woman who fought the arithmetic of blood to the very end. If you value stories that reveal the truth behind power and blood, subscribe and turn on notifications. More history, no myths, just the past, unmasked.